school tennis coach, Greg. Fun fact about Greg seemed a lot more like a football coach than a tennis coach. He was a very big guy, and in addition, typically a tennis coach will walk over to whisper coaching in your ear. Greg much preferred to bark it from the sidelines. I don't think he cared if the other team heard what he had to say. So I will tell you about a few lessons that I learned from Greg and how they influenced my life today. The first lesson from Greg was about poaching. Poaching is a strategy in tennis where you have a server who's at the baseline, they serve the ball, and then the net person who is up near the net will move across the court and put the ball away when you try to return it. The serve is naturally an advantageous shot, so the opponent has trouble returning it, and as such the net person can move wherever they want and do whatever they want. So I had a lot of trouble with this. I was playing against one of the better teams in our league, and I found that they would use that strategy and get a lot of free points because no matter what I did when I was trying to return the serve, they would get the ball and they would put it away. So I struggled with it a bit this match, and during one of the changeovers, I walked off the court because that's where the drinking fountain was, and I saw my coach Greg. And Greg looked at me and he said, "Take his head off." I said, "Greg, what does that mean?" And he said, "Next time they try to poach on you, the next time they serve to you, you know they're going to poach, hit the ball as hard as you can, right at the net man." I said, but coach, he's got an excellent volley. If I hit it right at him, it'll be even easier for him. He won't even have to move. And Greg said, "Okay, do it anyway." So on the next point, I set up, I get my serve, I take my forehand as hard as I can, right at this guy. It goes right under his arm. The look on his face was absolutely priceless. And he only poached one other time that match, and I answered with exactly the same move. They didn't have any answer, and in 4 words, Greg had solved a problem that had plagued me for all of my freshman year tennis. The next story I have about Greg is when he told me that I needed a weapon. I was a bit of a peculiar tennis player. I had not the best forehand, but I had quite a good backhand. Typically, a player's forehand is a lot better than their backhand. So it meant that I had a forehand and a backhand that were about even. Well, early on in my sophomore year season, I got a giant blister on my hand, and being a high schooler, I decided to just keep playing like nothing was happening, and within 3 weeks it had gotten so bad that for the time of my first match, I had to wrap it in athletic tape, put on a glove, and play basically without a backhand. I had to hit every backhand one-handed, which meant that I couldn't get any power, and I couldn't do much with it. So that's when I really started to think about what Greg had told me, that I needed a weapon. So I decided to turn my forehand into a weapon. I started hitting my forehand a lot harder. I started missing more, but ultimately winning more points. And I actually ended up winning more matches as well, because my opponents missed more, because they were worried that if they hit it back to me, that I could win the point. They would much rather miss than let me take off their netman's head. So, I was able to turn my forehand into a weapon, and that enabled me to win more matches. I should say this now, but there were 4 teams in our league, and we were the number 3rd team. We had just gotten a new freshman player, so who was our top player, and we thought that because of that we would be able to win. So the top 2 teams, which had always beaten us in the past, we were trying to beat them this time. Now, the problem with our top player was that he had kind of an attitude. He would throw his racket, he would yell, he would scream. It's all the stuff that you don't really want to see on TV, but still somehow you see at the pro level as well. But we were playing a match at a neutral club. There was he was playing on court 1 because that's where the top player plays. And there was a giant spectator section, a lot of people watching, mostly from this club, not from either of our tennis teams. And he was doing his usual thing. He was throwing his racket, he was yelling, screaming. So Greg walked on the court. He informed the other player that we were forfeiting the match, and he told our number 1 player to get off the court. Our number 1 player didn't expect that. He thought he was too good to be coached, I guess. Greg told him that not only would he get off the court for that match, that he was also going to get off the team. He said, if you continue to disrespect the game, disrespect our team, and disrespect the courts you play on, you don't deserve to be on my team. I don't care how good you are. So the 3 lessons, and interestingly enough, we ended up taking the very top spot that year. That was the first time our team had ever brought home a trophy. So the 3 lessons that I learned from Greg were to be assertive, to be clear, and to have respect. Greg's assertiveness and clarity enabled him to give concise coaching that was relevant to who he was speaking to, and also good for the players because they learned that they were the ones who needed to make things happen in their matches. You shouldn't just wait for something to happen to you. The last lesson that Greg taught me was respect. I respect the game as I always have, and I've also taken that outside of tennis to respecting people in everyday life and coworkers. So I think that although the lessons that Greg taught me helped me a lot in tennis, they also helped me outside of tennis. I employ the same tactics that he taught me in everyday life. I think that the lessons of assertiveness and clarity that he taught me are one reason why I decided to join Toastmasters. I figured out what it was that I wanted, and I wanted to be a better speaker. I wanted to focus on specific goals, and then I think I decided to join Toastmasters in part because of lessons that I learned from Greg. Thank you.